Sean O'Connell Show, part of 31 Days of Football, brought to you by Baskin-Robbins. Great football conversations Monday through Friday, and we're in game week. So now we're in your real flavors, people, all right? On a Tuesday, you're probably just looking for a blank slate. You're just looking for a nice French vanilla. You can put whatever toppings you want on there. Double scoops, crumble some cookies, hot fudge, that terribly processed chocolate syrup you can get in bulk for like $1.50. Whatever you want, man. It's football season. Let's go. Jeff Schwartz kind enough to swing by earlier than usual today, but we get him because he's one of the best in the business. Jeff, welcome.
How are you, buddy?
Doing all right.
Did you see the big news in sports today?
There's a lot of big news in sports today. What are you referring to?
I just saw that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged.
I didn't see that. Is that true?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I feel like Andy Reid is just going to get he's going to be a good gift giver to this wedding. Like
Andy Reid. What is Andy Reid going to get Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce as a wedding gift?
It's going to be something great, I feel like. I feel like he's going to be a good gift giver. Mahomes will buy him something expensive. But the question is, my brother is friends with Travis, but I don't know if he's, go to their wedding friends. I'm kind of curious if Mitch will be invited. That's
actually – so do we think this is going to be, event of the season type, everyone is
I don't
invited,
know.
Or is this going to be hey, you actually have to make the cut as real friends?
I think you have to make the cut as real friends.
All right. Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably that because I think they've maintained as much privacy as possible in the relationship, with the exception of her going on the podcast and things like that. As far as celebrity couples go, they've been pretty low key.
Can I tell you one of the things that I found so funny about their podcast episode, which I actually really enjoyed? Well, two things. One is that Taylor says she knows nothing about football or did not know nothing, and Travis was took that as an honor and loved it, which is certainly in my relationship with my wife. But but secondly, so TikTok is a weird place, right? And somehow I got onto the side of TikTok where people were upset that Taylor Swift didn't talk about Gaza and is not vocal enough about
Yikes.
Gaza, Israel, and they disowned her after the interview.
Yikes.
I was like, what are we doing? I don't what are we
do we really think that Taylor Swift is going to have the words necessary to solve that centuries old conflict?
I don't get it. But anyways, we have not talked, I think, on this show since you came to my house.
That's right. We haven't because you bailed on us last week. That's right.
What was last week? Tuesday? I couldn't do last week.
Yeah, it's fine.
What was your expectations? And how did it end up going?
Okay,
you ate a lot of food, by the way. You were very hungry.
I wanted to eat more, but
my daughter ate all of it.
I'll tell you something. The Schwartz household, there's it's rations, okay? It's plenty of food for normal people, but Jeff, not normal, and his kids turns out not normal, and me, not normal when it comes to consuming foods. So it was all gone. It was not like you had no need for Tupperware that night. Every bit of the food you cooked got eaten.
Yeah, it was all gone. I cooked two steaks, a cowboy ribeye and a strip steak. I made potatoes and green beans, which I did not know that you disown. But I made a lot of food, and it was completely gone. I'm surprised my daughter just is a large human. She took a picture yesterday for her first day of fourth grade, and it's those are Jeff Schwartz knees. They just,
okay, we had a blast at the Schwartz household. I've not told anyone on air this yet, but one thing that I did not like about my visit, Jeff has extra tall countertops.
Oh, yeah.
His house has been upscaled to accommodate his immense size. So when you're a normal, it feels like you're a kid. His kitchen counter goes up to my nipples. It's chest high.
So a normal kitchen counter is 36 inches high, I want to say.
Okay.
and ours is in the extra inch of like the marble slab, not the marble slab, it's quartz or whatever, it's not marble. You add in the extra
travertine
slab
from Italy. Yes,
yeah.
imported.
Well, the thing about it is like we wanted to do that type of stuff, and then you realize that it stains very easily, and you have young kids that cook a lot. Like you just can't have marble; it's going to stain too easily.
Etches
and it's way too
too.
expensive.
You put any acidic thing on there, it etches. We went through the whole process. Yeah.
So we went. So we went with as I mentioned with that, and it's very tall. It's 40. It's awesome. For me, I live in my own house.
It's not
great
awesome
for me.
because when you're sitting there as a normal person, and I'm 6'1", okay, I'm like a normal sized person. It makes you feel small because you're standing there with this Sasquatch of a man, and also the countertop is higher on your chest than it should be. You're like, what? Am I shrinking? What's going on in this weird bizarro house?
It is different. I wanted to say, I want to read it again. I did not know what to expect at the fights. I just had no idea. It's at Bojangles Coliseum. It's our like fourth arena in the city. Like I don't know what to expect. We had the best time, and I was like, and Meredith was even like enjoyed it. I think but she sounded like, you know what? I'm just happy to be out of the house. I'm like, no, yeah, I think you're enjoying this.
Yeah, she was enjoying because fights are you either like them or you're just like, oof, this is not for me. And I will wear this as a badge of honor for the rest of my life. I have converted the Schwartz family into
I totally
fans.
Go again. Totally go. And once and look, I told her like we're staying till 9. I had to be up at 4:00 to work the next morning. I'm like, we'll go and just like see what's up. We stayed till basically the very end. We missed the last fight. I was so tired. I'm like, we gotta get out of here, honey. But we stayed.
But keep it within reason. You can't expect adults with kids to stay up past 10:30. Like
so, yeah, about 10:30. I was like, we're out of here. And it was great. Your friends were awesome. Were like telling us about what was happening because there were times I'm like, the odds were on the screen, right, for the fight. I was like, really, like that fight seems like that the one fighter's winning. It's like no, the other guy's winning. Like they're controlling the fight. And then we sat behind. Who is the woman that won in the second to last fight?
Liz Carmouche, who people will know. Even casual fans will know Liz Carmouche because when Ronda Rousey was the first woman ever to fight in the UFC, her opponent was Liz Carmouche. So.
Okay, so we sat behind her kid, who was watching her mom fight. I was like, I could not imagine my Norman Schwartz watching me fight. That would be like the death of him to watch me fight. And then she knocked out, and I hit a live wager, which was like the greatest. I had 7 seconds to get it in. I planned the whole thing out. And it was just like the best. You're in person, right? So you have a chance to live wager, and I hit it perfectly. And she knocked that woman out. And but once the fights got going, there was like no breaks. The fight would end, and the next fight would start. It was a lot of fun.
It's awesome, and I'm glad you came, and I'm glad you're a fan now. And I will see you again in 7 years or whatever.
I would totally go again. I don't know if I'd go to like anything that wasn't your fight. Exactly. I'm not sure I'm going to like UFC fights now, but. It was a ton of fun, and if anyone like thinks like I sort of thought, I think like how it's just people punching each other. How fun could this be? The USA chants, did not expect those. A bunch of USA chants were happening.
Well, because it was an American fighter versus like a Brazilian or something.
Yeah. They were, and the fighters walked past us too to get out, and one of the best parts is Meredith, of course, big sports fan, was like, that person does not weigh 125 pounds. There's just no way. And I'm like, well, they gain a couple weight when they after they cut weight, but like they're not that big. And they walked by. She's like, oh yeah, they're not that big. like they're not big. Felt bad for one guy. He was like in tears though. He seemed like he was really upset he lost, and he clearly lost. I mean, but he was like very upset. And I felt bad as he walked by me, and he was very emotional.
Yeah. Well, I know who you're talking about, and he's been through some stuff and battled all the way to the final, to the championship fight. If he wins that fight, it's $500,000, and it changes, his not just the bank account, but it changes like the matchups you get in the future, your negotiation ability for more money and all that stuff. And losing, unfortunately, it's like, oh, okay, well, enjoy your $30,000 or $40,000 or whatever you got, and that's what you'll get for the next one too. So yeah. I think he had a lot of eggs in that basket. But I didn't bring you on to talk about the fights, although I'm always happy to talk about the fights. It is cut down day in the NFL.
It is, yeah.
Tell me the inside the locker room perspective, the relationship players have with this day.
It's a very odd day, Sean, right? You spend all camp. It used to be where you would cut from 90 to 75, and then you go to 53, and so you had these kind of throughout the camp. Like you would lose some of your roster, but now they cut everyone at once, and you go from a big roster to a small roster, and you know it's coming. You know the day is coming. And it still just feels very odd to walk into a locker room and essentially 90 to 53. You're like, what is happening here? It's an odd feeling just from that perspective, and also. I think sometimes like who's about to be cut, who's not, but there's always a couple surprises. And so it's always, kind of surprising. We're like, oh man, like that guy got cut. You feel a little more like, mortal when someone else gets cut who you don't think is going to be cut. Cause then you realize like, oh, I could have been cut, it's always fun to see like the rookies who make it and sort of the undrafted. There's a Chiefs player who made it for now as a linebacker who was a try-on, like a tryout, I should say, a tryout in minicamp and made the roster. The thing that it's the worst, this is the absolute worst about cut down day is this is not the final cut. It's the first cut. And you're going to see teams, so when you get released, you get put on to waivers. And if you're not, and teams will claim you, right? And within 24 hours, they have to create a roster spot for the players they've claimed. And so you have players that, and coaches will say, hey, man, like we're going to make some more moves. But you have players today, Sean, that call their mom and dad, hey, I've made the team. I made the rooster. If you get that joke, please tell me. That would be fantastic. And then they get a call that, hey, man, we brought in someone else on the waivers. You're being released. And that's the worst because the guys do think they make it. And then 24 hours later, they're not on the roster anymore. And it's that's really a bummer. That's pretty painful. And the teams tell you that they're doing that. My first year in Kansas City, they were 2-14 the year before. So they had number one waiver party. It goes off a record from last season. I think we brought in 9 guys off waivers after the first cuts. And that means that 9 guys that thought they made the roster got released 24 hours after they announced the 53-man roster.
And correct me if I'm wrong. It's no news is good news, right? Like if you don't get called into the office,
yeah,
you're just waiting, and then you're like, oh, they didn't have me do that walk of shame that we see on Hard Knocks, and so I made the roster.
So it's interesting. I don't know if it's I stopped watching Hard Knocks as much because I just think it's not real life anymore. They edit so much of it out, but that used to be what it was. If you did not get a phone call or did not get met by the player personnel director or someone as you walked in the door, you were safe. But now they've been putting videos out of players that get calls and come to the office to get told they made the roster, Sean. I don't know if that's for television or that's really what every team does now. But yes, when I was a young player, that's what it was. You were released if you got a call, and if not, you were safe. And so my first year, I knew I was getting cut. They told me. So I got the call at 6:00 in the morning at the hotel. I was in Charlotte, and I was released. And then I picked up on practice squad. Other years, I got cut out of camp one other time in Detroit. I knew that was coming. That was my 9th year. It was pretty obvious. I got called on the way into the building. But yeah, if you don't get a call, typically that means you made the roster.
So, I mean, that put together with what you're talking about, right? Like you're waiting, all the anxiety, all the nervousness, and then the feeling, the wave of relief when you don't get the call, but then maybe the next day you do. That's
it's
brutal.
it's to me, that's the worst part about the cuts. It's not getting cut today. It's getting cut tomorrow. And that's going to happen. I mean, these guys hit the waivers. I mean, there's also then, veteran players that are old that don't get put on waivers, that are too old to be on waivers, that are just outright free agents, which will happen as well. You have to be a certain age to be on the waivers. They're just older players that just get that flat out, like they get to a certain age when they're just cut essentially, and not put on the waivers. So those guys are free to sign immediately. So you're going to have roster turnover, even for your favorite team. If you're a Broncos fan or you're a Chargers fan out west or you're a Vikings fan, whatever, I don't know how many people root for in Utah. Your favorite teams, it's still going to go through a roster transformation most likely between now. And these guys are not guys that probably start for you, but they might be depth guys that you might count on later in the season. And they're going to, go through the roster. And now, practice squad as well. Practice squad used to be 8 guys, and it was pretty cheap to be on practice squad. Now guys are getting paid a lot of money. It's 16 slots plus you get an international slot now as well if you have an international player in the international program. So a lot of these guys that are getting released will end up back on their own team's practice squad.
Jeff Schwartz is our guest here, talking a little NFL cutdown day. Teams go from 90 to 53 today, but as he's saying, it's far from final because then the waivers come into play, and we will keep you updated on all of the Utah players that either do or do not make rosters. How much of Week 0 did you watch?
All? My kids were at the beach.
Perfect. The Iowa State-Kansas State matchup in Dublin was kind of the premier game, two ranked teams. Iowa State ends up, coming out on top. And it was a little bit sloppy, which you expect from the first week of the season. I think you can probably add another layer of slop because of the way that field was, because of the fact that you had to travel to Dublin in order to do it all. But what were your early impressions of two ranked teams in the Big 12 slugging it out, but the underdog winning?
So I had liked Iowa State in that matchup, and then enough smart people that I trust talked me out of it, essentially. And the reason I liked Iowa State initially was I just coach and quarterback, right? Like I like Beck, I like Matt Campbell. I just thought that but they had a bunch of just new guys in their team. And I thought early on Kansas State was almost like losing the game rather than Iowa State winning the game, which we know can be part of football at times, and Iowa State eventually won the game. I'll just say this, man. I think you can never go wrong being aggressive. And Iowa State won the game because they were aggressive. And, of course, there are times when, it hurts. There are certainly times of that. But that 4th and 3 call, man, I absolutely loved it. Going up 6 is not smart football in that situation. It really doesn't do very much for you. The offense, whether you're up 3 or up 6, is still trying to score a touchdown to win the game. That doesn't change. So going up 6, all it does is giving the offense an extra down on 4th down. Like it really doesn't do anything. So I loved it, Sean. I think the Big Ten is pretty wide open this season. I picked Utah to win the Big 12. It doesn't really change my opinion on that, but I think that, again, quarterback and coach are so important in this sport. When you have someone like Campbell and like Beck, it really gives you a leg up on your opponents.
You saw Stanford lose to Hawaii.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
You and I, we paid a lot of attention to Stanford for several years. Now they're an ACC team, which still will never make any sense to me. But the reason I even bring it up is because Stanford is one of these teams that the transition era of college football where, realignment happened and the rules changed and all that stuff, it has been pretty unkind to Stanford that not so long ago was a power on the West Coast. And it feels like they're so far away from that, maybe they'll never get back to it at this point.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad loss. I mean, Hawaii's quarterback couldn't move. He literally couldn't move. He was hobbling off the field. But how college football is it that they lost to a kicker from Japan who learned how to play the game on YouTube? Like just like a perfect fitting way to start the college football season. I think Stanford's in a bad way. I think Cal this year is in a bad way. One of my favorite wagers for the season is Cal's win total under. I actually just wagered on Oregon State to win on the money line against Cal this weekend. I just think Cal and Stanford, they're not programs I think that are really meant for this era of ball. They're just not. It's not. They're not built to to travel the way they have to travel in the sport now. They're not built to recruit the way they have to recruit in the sport now. I thought Stanford was sort of on the right track with Taylor, but ended up having to fire him and move on. So, I think it's going to be a rough road for both these schools in the ACC.
Let's get to this weekend's games. Texas and Ohio State, the premier matchup. That's the top ticket. I think it's like $350 just to get in the building right now at the Shoe. And as we've talked about, I think before, it's the first time that the preseason number one is an underdog ever in history.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
So I like Texas in this game. I don't think we are giving enough attention to the losses Ohio State has. We're really focusing on Texas lost so much. So did Ohio State. Now, the caveat, of course, that Ohio State has the two best players potentially in the country, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. But they lost their quarterback from last year. They lost a wide receiver. They lost their two running backs. They lost a bunch of offensive linemen, including 2 first-round picks. They lost their OC. They lost their offensive line coach. They lost their defensive coordinator. They lost a bunch of their edge pass rushers. Like, they lost a lot, Sean. And they have a lot coming back, like, that are talented players, right? Like, we know that. But, like, Oregon lost a lot, too. But they opened with Montana State. This team opens with Texas, like a legitimate team with the players that can make them pay for these losses. I don't view Ohio State as some huge home field advantage. I know that people are saying, well, they've only lost X amount of games at home in the last 5 years. Well, they're multiple touchdown favorites in all those games. And the games that they've lost, Michigan, Oregon, like, Texas can beat them. Like, there's no distinct home field advantage Ohio State has other than just being better than everyone else. Like, it's not a place that's exceptionally loud or that instills fear in teams. They've just been better than everyone else, Sean. So I like Texas in this game. I think it's a very low scoring game though. Arch being the full-time starter now, and Julian Saint for Ohio State. So I just think it's a low scoring game, but I do tend to lean toward Texas in this one.
BYU is a 43.5 point favorite. I wouldn't bring that up on the home of the Utes, except to have a little chuckle because I mean, look, they're going to win. Portland State is bad, but 43.5 is a monster spread, and I'm scrolling to make sure I'm correct. It's the biggest one set for the opening weekend of college football.
No, Penn State's favored by more, but it's unimportant. But it's okay.
Where's the Penn State? I'm not
45.5, I think.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
Penn State will cover though.
Yeah, okay.
James Franklin's special. He covers all those big games. BYU. Okay, can we talk a little bit about BYU? I don't really. I don't sort of get the optimism. Like I guys, true freshman quarterback, who wear number 47 especially, but it is hard to win as a true freshman. Like, we just refuse to acknowledge this. I don't get it, Sean. It's very rare for true freshmen to come in and be good immediately. Now, the reason you play them is because the upside of playing them, you get that upside in year 2 and year 3 and year 4, right? Really, year 2 and year 3. But, like, it is exceptionally hard to win road games, particularly, as a true freshman. And no matter how good the player is, it is very, very. I mean, look, Dominic Rolla last season for Nebraska, okay, because he's a true freshman, right? He beat Purdue on the road. Well, they stink, okay. How about this? The next 4 home games, you ready? I mean, road games, okay. They lost 56-7 to Indiana. They lost 21-17 to Ohio State, 28-20 to USC, and they lost to Iowa 13-10. Guess what? They won all their home games, though, Sean. It's hard to play as a true freshman on the road, even at home. And I just don't think that we appreciate that enough in this sport. Then we don't actually, I think, are honest about it when it comes to a guy like Dante Moore, who started as a true freshman at UCLA. Oh, he was terrible. Well, I mean, it's hard. What do you want? I mean, people are high on the Washington's quarterback, right? Look how he played in the road last season. He played terrible. It's hard. It's hard. True freshman. And so I just don't think that we're giving that enough weight when it comes to the season for BYU.
Yeah, I think that the reason, and I'm among those who thinks that BYU is going to be okay because Jake Retzlaff helped you situationally last year, but he didn't put up a bunch of numbers. Now, your point is well made that the true freshman, situationally, that's where he's going to struggle. He might have fine numbers, but in those like game-defining moments, that's usually where youth becomes an issue. We saw that with Isaac Wilson as a true freshman at the University of Utah last year. So, but Retzlaff was an okay quarterback. He was not the reason that they won games, and their running game should be as good or better this year as it was. Their defense should be as good or better than this year than it was last year. And those are the things that helped them win. Now, turnover margin favored BYU in a way that is hard to sustain and is hard to replicate this year, and they've admitted that. I mean, Jay Hill will be the first one to tell you that. So there's certainly places where you can point to what BYU's dealing with and say, all right, I don't think it's another 11-win season, but I'm not fearing the same huge drop-off that other people are.
Yeah, I'm I haven't made a play on their under yet, but they're a team that sort of has my eye for some fades as their schedule gets much tougher in the back half of the season. Just with some of these road, their schedule's not bad early on, but you can start at Iowa State, at Texas Tech. Those games middle of the year sort of are catch my eye as a good maybe fade opportunity for a young quarterback kind of going through some things as he again it's growing pains. It happens. I like Utah this weekend, by the way, to cover.
Well, I was going to ask you, we had our old friend Josh Lewin on yesterday. And
yeah.
He was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what UCLA's got. Utah's basically a touchdown favorite here to start the season. There's a lot of questions about Utah and some of the similar questions that UCLA's asking right now. Give me your assessment of this matchup.
I'm looking at ESPN.com right now. ESPN has Utah as a 6-point favorite. Their matchup predictor, according to ESPN Analytics, has UCLA as winning. I don't understand how that is possible, but whatever, man. How can your sportsbook have you as a touchdown favorite and then the matchup predictor, according to analytics, puts Utah as the favorite? That doesn't make sense. You should be using the same analytics to make both those numbers. Whatever, man. Not my problem. First of all, there's no home field advantage, right? So the 6 points, if you include home field advantage, like is it 9 or 10 if this game is at Utah, right? Like to me it's UCLA on a Saturday night of Labor Day weekend. How many UCLA fans are going to be in the Rose Bowl at
11
8 p.m.
or 12
at 8 p.m. on Saturday night? The answer is nobody. Okay, it'd be Utah fans there. Actually won't, but probably won't be much traffic though. So congratulations to the Utah fans there traveling from downtown LA into Pasadena. Look, I'm buying Utah this year. We've talked about this before. There's nothing really, but you look at, I like the combination of quarterback and OC together in basically a portal move, right? You bring your OC and your quarterback, so there's not a lot of new for the quarterback. I just think that when you have Utah's offensive line, it really helps a new quarterback. Like, go run the football against UCLA. I think if Dan Pierre throws the ball 20 times, that's about perfect in this game, right, Sean? Like, you just run the ball 55 times. You throw it 20 times. You play action pass, and then I think vice versa. I just don't think UCLA offensively is going to be really up to speed in week one. Tennessee's offense is unique to itself, and I don't think the offense really prepares players to do anything else. And we're seeing this in the NFL where like Tennessee quarterbacks, like Hayden Hooker just got cut by the Lions, right? Third round pick 2 years ago. There's an article out I saw of a former Tennessee wide receiver being like, yeah, man, this offense does not prepare me for anything else. So Nico's coming in this brand new, they lost 40 guys off their roster last season. And if Josh Lewin, who again, these guys are fantastic, but like they're supposed to promote the program. He's like, I don't know. Like, I know him getting from Utah, right? I know him getting from Utah. I do. And so I'm on a step to watch the game. I'll be in Eugene this weekend. I think Utah's going to win. Marathon have been together 18 years. First time at Autzen Stadium for her this weekend.
That's incredible. Well, That'll be awesome for you and the kids and everyone involved. So enjoy the trip. And when somebody comes up to you, Jeff, and is like, hey, former Duck, do you want to come through the equipment room and grab some like really cool limited edition Nikes? Don't be like, I'm a New Balance guy. All right. Take the green Jordan 4s and just
I have those
it.
already.
Okay.
I have a pair of Jordan 4s.
You don't wear them.
No, I have them. Yeah, correct. They don't fit my foot. My foot needs to be it's a little too narrow.
Oh, you're the worst, but you're the best. Thanks for jumping on. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
That's Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck, making the trip to his alma mater for the weekend. All right, we'll double up here. We'll come back. Josh Newman on the other side. I want to remind everybody that we've got a special event coming to Salt Lake City at Granary Live September 27th. It's Canna Fan Fest, one-day festival of live musical performances featuring Crooked Kings, Changing Lanes, Analia Brown, and more. ESPN700sports.com for more details on how to celebrate cannabis culture, music, and community in the first annual Canna Fan Fest at Granary Live. Get your tickets now at ESPN700sports.com. Josh Newman next on the Sean O'Connell Show. Sean O'Connell Show, hour number 2 on a Tuesday. We welcome Josh Newman, old friend of the program, who's back doing a little freelancing, talking Utah football every now and again. Josh, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I appreciate you having me, OC.
I appreciate the tweet that you sent out teasing your appearance on the show and hitting on the most important news of the day. If people are not following Josh Newman on Twitter, first of all, how dare you? But he did say that he was coming on the show to discuss the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift engagement and maybe some Utah UCLA.
Maybe, just maybe. We'll see how much time we have.
We'll actually start with Utah UCLA. We'll just get that little tidbit out of the way before we get to the real meat on the bone here with all the Swifties that are tuning in to hear our opinion on it, of course. Look, it's an old Pac-12 matchup. It's two teams that are trotting out new quarterbacks. Now, Utah has a quarterback not learning a new offense, and UCLA's got a guy who came from Tennessee and a coordinator who did not. But, we'll just start there. Which offense do you think gets off to a smoother start? Because it is going to be a first game of the year for both teams.
I lean towards Utah just because I think there's more viable pieces than what UCLA is putting out on the field, in spite of who the quarterback is now at UCLA. Now, I say that with a qualifier. There's just so much unknown. I mean, we've been talking about this, and everybody's writing about it. It's been one of those off seasons where, there's a lot of intrigue, and I don't think anybody, at least, the rational people, don't quite know what to think, right? Look, this is a new offensive system that Utah is employing, and not only is it a new offensive system, it is going outside who Kyle Whittingham has been for pretty much his entire career, right? Like, they're going to go tempo, and Devin Dampier is kind of this, this hybrid sort of dual threat. He can tuck and go, and he's got an arm, but I don't know. It's just it's a new system with a new OC and a new quarterback, and you're on the road. Look, we all know that Kyle Whittingham likes to play his FCS opener on a Thursday night at Rice Eccles. Well, that's not what this is, and Utah's probably better on paper, at least, than UCLA, but you still have to go to the Rose Bowl, and you're dealing with, the unknowns of UCLA, right? They've got a ton of new pieces. So I think Utah gets off to the better start offensively, but there's just so many question marks that go into this particular opener.
I want to lean into some of the things you just said there because it's a point well made that, Kyle Whittingham has he's built a team identity that kind of goes toward a more traditional pro-style offense where you can play a little bit of ball control and tempo is not as often a thing. Now, I've been told that this no huddle is going to be slow no huddle, and so we'll see how that plays out. We have seen him use quarterbacks who like to run the football in the past. I don't think anyone has been quite as dynamic and as athletic and maybe like as evenly split or even lean towards the run thing as Devin Dampier, at least not in recent memory. But as we're talking about a guy who's in season number 21 and has a reputation, earned or not, of being overly conservative offensively, now, for the old dog to want to learn some new tricks or to at least at face value, and if we take his word for it, be willing to learn those new tricks offensively this year, how much does that become a storyline as the season progresses, do you think?
Oh, huge storyline. Absolutely gigantic storyline. As you alluded to at the top, I'm doing some freelance for KSL. I brought back the mailbag, which has been a popular, thing with fans. And, the first mailbag earlier this month, somebody asked me, how much, I'm paraphrasing here, how much trust or faith does Kyle Whittingham have in Jason Beck, right? The new offensive coordinator. And my answer was essentially, Kyle Whittingham is in the winter. He is deep in the winter of his coaching career. Kyle Whittingham is going to walk away from either, this coming off season, maybe next off season, but this is it for Kyle Whittingham. This OC, this quarterback, you have committed to, this personnel and this system. Kyle Whittingham has no choice but to, loosen his grip on the reins and let Jason Beck do his thing. Him and Devin Dampier came from New Mexico as a package deal. Kyle Whittingham has no choice but to loosen his grip and let these guys do their thing because, again, this is it. Like, this is your last run essentially. So, for whatever, for whatever, looking over the shoulder, so to speak, that Kyle has had with his OCs, whether it be Andy Ludwig or whoever else, he has no choice but to let Jason Beck do his thing. And look, I'm as interested as anybody else to see what happens at the Rose Bowl on Saturday night. But whatever happens, good, bad, or otherwise, let's say it's bad or let's say it's middling on Saturday, you cannot hit the panic button. It's one game. It's the opener. Again, new system being employed. You cannot panic. You cannot make, wholesale changes if things do not go well or well enough on Saturday.
What does bad look like, right? Because I see the personnel, and obviously, especially the offensive line. You're like, well, there's a certain fail-safe there when you have three experienced interior offensive linemen. Then you've got these two promising young tackles who are getting first-round draft grades, and those they don't seem like the type that are reading their own headlines too much. What we do have to wait to see how it plays out. But the offensive line, I'm like, okay, what does bad actually look like if we're talking about a slow rollout of this offense? We're talking about Jason Beck and Devin Dampier trying to make us all believe, oh, this team's going to score 30 points a game. What does bad actually look like at the Rose Bowl? Because this is not a UCLA team with like 4 or 5 NFL defensive players as we were accustomed to some years in the Pac-12.
Yeah, what does bad look like? I mean, it's sort of up to the fan or up to me or up to you personally. If you're not moving the ball behind that offensive line, as you said, two of those guys are getting first round grades. If you're not moving the ball, if you are getting like dumb procedural penalties, dumb pre-snap stuff that sometimes comes with, again, instituting a new offense, bunch of new pieces. It's the opener. You're playing a real opponent. If you're getting dumb stuff like that, of course, if you're not scoring points, that's not a good thing. But if there is minor stuff that is prohibiting Utah from moving the ball, and of course, if Devin Dampier is getting decked, if the offensive line is not up to snuff. So what does bad look like? I mean, I think that's up to everybody to sort of, decide what their definition of bad looks like. But to me, if the small things are bad, that's not a good night. But again, it's week one. And as we've learned here in the recent past, week one is often a mirage, and week one is not, it's not always completely indicative of who you are. Week one is, the baseline. And if it goes good, it goes bad. That's the baseline. That's what you have to work off of. But yeah, I would say if there's small stuff that's going poorly, that's going to be a bad night for Utah.
Morgan Scalley is the heir apparent. He's the head coach in waiting. He's also one of the best defensive coordinators in the country by most metrics, probably by any metric. He has a different looking defense this year. The defensive line, especially the interior defensive line, doesn't return a ton of production, which is a strange thing at the University of Utah for that position group to be any type of a question. Obviously, the defensive backfield, you lost some quality in that position group as well. The linebackers are maybe better on paper than average. So are we just correct in assuming defensively they're going to be fine, or should we worry a little bit more than we have been conditioned to worry because this is Utah and defense we're talking about?
Fair question. I would say, my knee-jerk reaction to that is, and it is Morgan Scalley. And don't worry about the defense. This is what he's been doing for a very long time. And yes, OC, I would probably agree with you that defense as a whole looks a little different than what people are used to, but it's going to be fine. Might not be fine on Saturday. Again, game one, real opponent on the road. It might not look the way you want it to look right out of the gate, but I think, Morgan Scalley and Kyle Whittingham deserve the benefit of the doubt. Based on not just the last 2 years, but based on a very large body of work defensively that they put together here over the last however many years.
Josh Newman, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking this opening weekend of college football coming, Utah, UCLA. on Saturday night. The premier matchup, you've spent some time recently covering the Texas Longhorns, and they come right out the gate as the number one team in the country who is also somehow a dog on the road against Ohio State. First time ever that has happened, but it shows you the value of preseason rankings. And maybe more intriguing for me is the fact, that we actually get the Arch Manning show for real now. I mean, he's part of what they've done recently, but this is it. It's now his team, and you were closer to it than any of us. So how does it actually look on Saturday at the Shoe?
Yeah, it is Arch Manning's deal now, and as the local writers have known for some time, this kid was never he was never transferring, right? But the plan was, he shows up as a freshman, and Quinn Ewers was the starter in 2023, and Ewers was supposed to leave, and Manning was supposed to be the guy last year. Well, Ewers comes back for another year. The whole timeline got backed up. It's the Mannings, right? They weren't, they're not worried about money, and they're not super worried about NIL, and they like Steve Sarkisian. They really believe that Steve Sarkisian is a quarterback whisperer. So this kid was never transferring, and the patience has paid off now because it's now his deal. I think Texas's not problem, but the thing to watch is, I don't think it's Manning. I think it's what's around Manning. I don't think there's been enough chatter here locally about, look, 80% of your offensive line is gone to the NFL, including the Outland Trophy winner at left tackle and your center who started 55 games across 5 seasons. Your monster pass catching tight end is also gone to the NFL. There's a bit of a question mark at wide receiver just because the guys that are stepping in are veteran guys, but they have not been number 1, number 2 guys because they've had to wait their turn again behind NFL guys. Your defense is good. Your interior defensive line has again lost both tackles to the NFL for the second year in a row. You're plugging guys in. That's sort of where your depth and your recruiting, needs to shine, right? That the guy stepping in can do the job. I don't think there's a world where Manning is bad, but I think it's asking a lot to walk into the Horseshoe and ask this kid to win a football game right out of the gate. Super talented kid. We just don't know the full scope of what he is yet. Not his fault, but he's had to wait behind Ewers. He started a couple of games last year when Ewers was hurt. I was researching last week. I think he has like 270 dropbacks for his career. Not a lot of football been played by Arch Manning. So that is going to be fascinating, how he deals with the environment and the opponent and the lights and everything. He's a very level-headed kid, but let's see what happens when it's for real. And on Saturday, it's going to be very, very real for Arch Manning.
Should we take it as gospel when his grandfather says, kind of offhand, he's not going to the NFL. He's going to be back at Texas?
Yeah, Grandpa kind of spoke out of turn there, and the local guys here again. Arch spoke last week, and I guess Grandpa texted to he texted his grandson to apologize. That brought some unintended attention. I will say this: everything that we've heard again locally for like the last 2 years is Texas expects to get this season and next season out of Arch Manning. The plan right now is to not leave after this year. Now, look, let's see what happens here. He's a Heisman finalist. They win the national championship, something crazy like that. He puts up numbers. He's clearly in the running to be a top 3, top 5, top 7 pick. We can have that conversation later if we have to. But right now, on August 26th, before this kid has started a road game in his career, I think the intention still is that, Texas thinks they're getting 2 years out of Manning, not just this one.
Another thing that I want to touch on in the media availability, and you're familiar with these, that Kyle Whittingham hosts every week, and you get 15 minutes to talk to him. The questions went a little bit, they went big picture yesterday, which I thought was surprising because, game week, it's time to get granular, whatever. And he has, at every opportunity in every turn, and I agree with you that, we're in the late winter of his coaching career, but talked about the sustainability of the current rule set and the transfer portal and the NIL and the revenue sharing and things like that. And, there's a belief, at least with the head man at Utah, that it's not overly sustainable. Now, if it's sustainable for Texas and if it's sustainable for Utah, you know better than I. I think those are two different questions. But you've been close to both now, and the difference, the gap between Texas, who now expects to be in the national championship conversation every year, and Utah, who's trying to get back to the Big 12 championship conversation every year, and the finances associated with that. Give me a sense of how truly difficult it would be for Utah to close some of that gap.
I mean, the gap between Texas and Utah in terms of resources and NIL money and just what you need to put a national championship contending team on the field, the gap between the two is a very large gulf. You just go, you went through the transfer portal and sort of the off season, and Texas football wasn't really getting outbid by anybody. There were certainly some high numbers being thrown around for certain guys, and maybe they passed on this portal guy or that portal guy, but there have been very few instances here, at least in my time living in Austin, there have been very few instances where Texas wants a guy and they didn't get the guy. And then you got to the offseason, this past offseason, after Texas went to the college football playoff, and you had other schools trying to poach the top Texas guys. Anthony Hill Jr. is a first-round linebacker. Colin Simmons is a ferocious edge rusher. Arch Manning. Nobody could poach these guys because they just couldn't. Like, the money is too good at Texas, and Texas is sending, 12, 14, 15 guys to the NFL every year. Steve Sarkisian has it rolling here. So, in terms of putting together a roster, that can win a national title, it's a very large gap between these two schools. Now, with that said, the advent of the 12-team playoff and potentially moving to 16 or however many teams, that has given, wider access to a team like Utah, who has been very good for a long time, but, was never able to break through to a four-team CFP. With a 12-team CFP, even if you don't win the Big 12, if your resume is good enough, you can get into the tournament. Now, I don't think that the college football playoff will ever be like the NCAA tournament where you're seeing upsets sprung. It's still going to be a situation, and Kyle has sort of said this in the past, the teams with the most resources, the most money, are going to be the ones standing at the end. But Utah, again, with some more resources now and with a bigger playoff, they certainly have, certainly a better chance to be standing there when it's late December, early January, still playing meaningful football.
We got our first look at presumed Big 12 powers in Week 0 as Kansas State and Iowa State played kind of an ugly game in Dublin, and that's fine. It's Week 0, first game of the season. There is going to be some of what you were referring to earlier. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be some ugly things. Hopefully not everyone's dad is fighting sons in parking lots like we saw with Kansas State. But your first kind of blush at, I guess we saw Kansas this past weekend too, the available sample size of Big 12 football and where you think Utah fits in. Any new thoughts, or has your mind changed at all about what's possible for the Utes?
Just on the very limited scope that we saw over the weekend, I mean, look, the game in Ireland between Iowa State and Kansas State was a bit of a wash just because, again, like, it's Week 0 and you're in Ireland and it's like, what did we really learn? I thought personally, going into the weekend, I thought Kansas State felt a bit overrated. That sort of panned out a little bit for me. But again, Week 0, let's reserve full judgment until those two teams play a game in the United States. Kansas opened very forcefully against Fresno State, and you're sort of reminded of what Jalen Daniels can do at quarterback, right? For Kansas, he was injured there last season. Very forceful opener against Fresno State. He looked really good. He looked sharp. Kansas is, I don't think we're talking about Kansas as like a Big 12 title contender, but I think Saturday was a reminder. It's like, yeah, this kid can play quarterback, and maybe there's enough talent around him where, if things break right, maybe it's, Thanksgiving-ish or, early mid-November and Kansas is standing there, a game out of first, maybe contending to get to the Big 12 championship game. That's what Saturday was, a reminder of what Kansas could be if Jalen Daniels has it going.
How are your Sundays going to be this fall, Josh? As you turn to NFL fandom and your terrible choice in allegiances.
Oh, man, you said that very sadly. I just got really sad. I've sort of resigned myself to look. It's a bridge here. I don't think anybody believes that like Justin Fields is the long-term answer. For the Jets. Look, it was a week. You knew you needed a quarterback, right? Aaron Rodgers didn't work out. He's gone. The 2025 draft class for quarterbacks was pretty weak. The 26th class is supposed to be, or it's projected to be a lot better. Look, Justin Fields, low risk, high ceiling. If he plays well, great. If he doesn't, he's gone. But, eyes are sort of already on the 26th draft, knowing that you need a sort of a cornerstone guy at the most important position on the field.
Well, I look forward to more of these conversations. Appreciate you joining us ahead of week 1, and enjoy the weekend. We'll chat again soon.
I'll talk to you soon, OC. I appreciate it.
That's Josh Newman. You can find some more freelance work at KSL.com from Josh, and, he stays dialed in on all of college football, and for my delight, some of what's happening in the NFL. He's a Jets fan, so ouch. Not always the easiest thing. That's that conversation, part of our Big 12 at noon coverage, brought to you by Mountainland Supply, mountainlandsupply.com. For all of your home improvement needs, you got plumbing, you got irrigation issues, you got anything in the kitchen and the bath, Mountainland can take care of you. Go look them up and tell them OC sent you. We get to Red and Blue next. Jerem Jordan's going to swing by on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network. Red and Blue, Jerem Jordan, BYU Sports Nation. Cougs Insider joins us on the Sean O'Connell Show every Tuesday. He's kind enough to give us some time again today. Ahead of Week 1 games for Utah at UCLA, BYU taking on the mighty Vikings of Portland State. Jerem, welcome to the show. How are you?
I loved Vikings on the History Channel. Ragnar Lothbrok, what a character, what hair. So how dare you denigrate Vikings in any shape or form? Rick's College, I'm the proud kid of 2 Rick's College dropouts. So here we are, man.
I have no hate for the Portland State Vikings except for one thing. Okay? They had at one point, and they finally got rid of it, they had at one point the worst possible logo in the history of college football. There was at one point a helmet decal for Portland State where it was a Viking helmet on the helmet. Like,
oh yeah, I just looked it up. I see what you're saying. It's like a bad Minnesota Vikings version.
But it's so strange because like the Minnesota Vikings, they just put the horns on the helmet. It's like, okay, yeah. I'm not going to get into a debate about whether or not Vikings actually had horns on their helmet. We know the symbolism. It looks great. The Portland State Vikings had a decal on the side of their helmets back when I was a Big Sky athlete at Weber State. Shout out to the Wildcats. It's effective.
Sky.
It was a sticker of what looks like a motorcycle helmet with a full visor that also had a Viking horn on it, and that's what they put on their helmets. What are we doing, people? Thankfully, they got rid of it.
Yeah, 2016 and now they have the current logo, and it's a little more crisp. There's some good design there. There's obviously you can see when Photoshop was more readily available.
Yes,
for people.
The new one looks good. Anyway, look, this is one of those games where it's hard to find the win-win, right? Because you got to look great, you got to stay healthy. It's nice to have the tune-up, but there's a certain amount of risk even involved in tune-up games. So what are you looking for from the Cougs in the opening game of this 2025 campaign where they are, 43.5-point favorites?
Yeah, give me the over. Let's talk about what you just addressed, which is sort of the ramp up. I think this is the perfect game and, frankly, first 6 games for a true freshman quarterback like Bear Bachmeier. You don't want a super challenging situation right out of the gate. BYU has a very manageable non-conference schedule. FCS up front for a true freshman is perfect. I want to see Bear for, 3 quarters max. Be efficient, take care of the football, obviously stay healthy, establish the run game, find Carson Ryan, go deep a couple times to Chase Roberts, but run the ball down Portland State's throat. Don't show Stanford much. Keep it simple. 1-0, move on, 42-7, 60-7, whatever. What you can't have is 2017 when Portland State came in, it was 20-6, and it was like, well, was it game 1 or was it real indication of real issues? I don't see any way there are going to be like massive issues with this offensive situation for BYU despite a true freshman quarterback. I think they'll be just fine. I think the defense is really good. I think the special teams are elite. You move on to Stanford and so forth. Stanford, bye week at ECU, which is not an ideal G5, G6 road game. But then you start conference play at Colorado, a team that you just took it to in the bowl game with, you'd like to think, lesser talent with losing Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. That's a game that you can go and compete well in and win. You got West Virginia on a Friday. You got at Arizona. It's a perfect 6-game start if you can kind of sketch it out for a true freshman quarterback. So I'm excited to see this ramp up for Bear, who kind of gets his sea legs under him.
The fact that it's a young freshman, but he's a supreme athlete and he's a tank of sorts. How much does that play into how he actually goes out and executes this year? I mean, you don't want a freshman body to take a lot of impact. You want him to be intelligent about getting to the sticks and getting out of bounds. A lot of the Bear Bachmeier highlights that you see, he's more the hammer than the nail. Is that something they're trying to coach out of him right now?
That's a good question. Aaron Roderick has said, hey, we are going to use him in the run game. He's too good there not to. And against Portland State, I would hope you wouldn't need to use it that much. But, yeah, there's one particular highlight I think you're referring to where he just destroys some kid that a couple hours before was just trying to finish some math homework, and then suddenly Bear Bachmeier's sending him into the multiverse on his way into the end zone. It was crazy. But, they've got to use him in the run game, but I don't know that you need him a crazy amount, especially initially. But the threat of him running is going to be a new look for BYU that they haven't had the last couple of years. Certainly with Jake Retzloff, he was good with his legs, had over 400 yards rushing last year. But I think of Bear's a guy that could give you 500 or 600 yards on the ground if he's used in that way. It is just a little tricky. Keaton Slovis was not a runner prior to that. Jaron Hall, they didn't use as a runner as much as maybe I thought they would. He was super efficient as a passer, didn't give it away, could make all the throws. So I think we'll see an element of BYU's offense we haven't seen in a hot minute.
Aaron Roderick said that the camp MVP, so to speak, was L.J. Martin. And I'm sure that's music to the Coug fan ears. I've made it clear on this show many times. I think that BYU's run game is a big problem for everyone to deal with. The quarterback question, whatever, we'll see how it plays itself out. But I love their running back room. I guess we could ask a question or two about the offensive line. But to hear the offensive coordinator, who, by the way, he's been around some really good running backs, say that guy has grown in leaps and bounds when he was already a good player, that means something. Does it change your expectation for L.J. Martin?
I expected LJ to have a good year and be better, but yeah, when Aaron says that and you see LJ, he's just a little thinner, a little faster. To me, I've been calling him, he's been like a really solid, like Edgar Martinez lacing doubles against the wall kind of guy. Can he be a home run hitter at times? Like that 39-yard run he had against Utah, like, hey, he needs, to me, this year, like, get into the end zone on that one. BYU had to settle for a field goal on that drive. Get into the end zone. That wins you games. Maybe you don't need the Will Farron field goal if you get into the end zone there. You know,
why you do that? Why are you doing that to the Utah fans on the home of the Utes? Why are you bringing those examples up, Charam?
Hey, you knew what I was when you picked me up. LJ, I think, yeah, he could go for 1,100 plus. Like, I think he could have finally like 1,000-yard year. He's led BYU in rushing the first 2 years, by the way. He is totally on his way to being the first 4-year leader in rushing in BYU history. He could be that guy. Sione Moa was really good in spurts when they used him. 5 yards per carry, bouncing off dudes against Kansas State, good against Colorado in the end zone as well. And then Jovessa Demooney, that's Raider Demooney's first cousin, just won the third-string job. Redshirted off a mission last year. He's going to be in the mix. Certainly they wanted Hinckley Ropati again. He's applied for a waiver from the NCAA. They have not heard anything yet. He would really add to this group because that guy has been about 15 yards a catch per screen. He is a screen first-team All-American, and he's a good physical runner as well. Hoping to get him. Haven't heard anything yet, so I'm not expecting him to be able to play this year. But who knows? They're all backed up with NIL Go and waivers and whatever. Who knows? But, yeah, it's a good room. I do think they are kind of missing one guy probably with experience. That would be Hinckley. But LJ and Sione give you a really nice 1-2 punch.
What do you think the split is? Are we talking 80-20, 70-30?
Yeah, probably a 70-30. I think they're going to go to LJ as much as he can handle. And then Bear will take some of that off, too. I could see speed option stuff. I could see a little more RPO game, quick game, especially with true freshmen. Just let's make this simple read or two, which, by the way, with Bear, super smart dude. I know that you won't just want to say that about your quarterback naturally. You don't want to say that he's not, but he already knows the playbook. And Aaron Roderick said he can run any play that Zach Wilson, Jaron Hall, and Jake Retzloff ran. So that's pretty impressive at this point. And he's only been around here 3 or 4 months.
Jeremy Jordan, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show for some red and blue, talking BYU Cougs, who have Portland State Vikings in an FCS contest. They are heavy favorites this weekend. Who's going to be the second most prolific wide receiver on this BYU team? I asked second because I'm just making the not so bold assumption that Chase Roberts is your number one guy easily.
Absolutely. To me, Chase is knocking on the door of kind of top 5, top 7 guy in BYU history. I think he's got all the skills. I think he can make all plays. I think he's a good blocker. He's a deep threat. His hands are unbelievable. Leadership qualities, all of that. Absolutely. I agree with you. Second, probably between Parker Kingston and JoJo Phillips. JoJo, a kid that played high school basketball with Bronny. We saw him in spurts last year. He's going to be one of the top 3 guys now, heavily recruited guy. 10 catches for 211 last year. They feel like he could be a guy that's kind of your number two. Parker Kingston, though, is playmaker. Like when he has the ball in his hands, whether that's receiving, he has 3 touchdown passes in his career. Obviously, 2 punt returns, notably last year, K-State, Colorado. Every time he gets the ball, he does something with it. So give me, if healthy, Parker Kingston could be your number 2 receiver. But if you're talking straight up like yards, catches, that kind of thing, I do think Carson Ryan has a chance to be in that mix if you include the tight ends. I think they really like him. I think they're going to use him a lot. Aaron Roderick said yesterday on Coordinator's Corner, a show that features the coordinators, that, hey, Carson Ryan is an every down back for us, and we've been missing that the last couple of years. I think Aaron told us, why hasn't BYU used the tight end enough? Because he wants a guy that he can hide. He doesn't want an obviously flexed out guy or an inline guy or a wing guy that's just – that guy's obviously blocking. I think he values the versatility that Carson brings, and now Carson's going to get a chance after 2 good years at UCLA and Utah. And now he's had 29 catches in 29 games. He's a 1-catch-a-game guy. I think he becomes a 3-catch-a-game guy. I think he's used in this offense a little more than he has been.
I've been on the Carson Ryan train. I've had listeners on this show texting angry messages to me like, he's not a big loss. He's not that good. I'm like, yeah, he is. He's a really good player. Just wait and see. And I don't want to have to wait and see. I do wish him success every game except one. I know his uncle.
The feeling is mutual, Sean. That's why we get along. We understand.
As long as I'm, talking about the Utah connections. So there's obviously we've talked ad nauseum already about Keanu Tanavasa, and we just touched on Carson Ryan. There's also the legacy guys. There's Ephraim Asiata is down there, and Sione Pua's kids are down there. I think one's on a mission. But are they going to factor into what BYU's doing? I mean, the defense is really good. You don't probably have to lean on that level of depth. But is Vili or Ephraim Asiata, are those guys working into the rotation this year, you think? Vili Pua is who I'm talking about.
Yes, they're both in the 2 deep. So Vili is battling with Bodie Schoonover at one of those ends. He's going to play. And then Ephraim Asiata has officially made the switch from DN to backer. Obviously at 210, just a little light for an end. But he's going to back up Isaiah Glasker at the Sam linebacker, and I'm really excited about that. Especially when you think about next year when Isaiah graduates, like could Ephraim be the next guy at that position that's making plays off the edge, that's in coverage? Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to factor in. He played a little bit last year, but yes, both are in the 2 deep this year.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, but the big picture stuff in the Big 12 conference, we got to see 3 Big 12 teams. You got to see Kansas State, Iowa State. You got to see Kansas. And, of course, we're still projecting on everyone else. But did you see anything from those 3 teams in Week 0 games that change your expectations for the power structure of the conference?
What I don't want to see is Kansas good at football because – obviously, that's like a sleeping giant given the investment from David Booth specifically. That new stadium looks nice. I saw it in person back in March when I was at the Big 12 basketball tournament. Jalen Daniels, like we've been talking about it for like 3 or 4 years now. If he's healthy, if he does it, what I don't need is another team threatening at the top named Kansas. The fact that when BYU entered this league, I thought, okay, there's a win. There's Kansas. BYU's 0-2 against the Jayhawks. Are you kidding me? I'm not over what Kansas football has done to BYU the last couple of years. In basketball, BYU's 2-0, so that's crazy too. I don't know. Iowa State, Kansas State. I didn't take a lot from that game. Let me tell you why. 1, it's Week 0. 2, it's in Ireland. 3, that the field conditions were terrible. You could barely see the lines. I don't take a ton from it. I am waiting for Avery Johnson to kind of justify why they got rid of Will Howard left and then went to Natty at Ohio State. I'm still yet to see I've seen it in glimpses. I need to see it a little more. But Iowa State, K-State, both 2 good programs, super consistent. Iowa State could be interesting. They lost 2,000-yard receivers, yet it feels like they kind of picked up where they left off. So we'll see, man. And I don't know. Stanford is BYU's Week 2 opponent. I was watching that too. They did not look good, Sean. Obviously, they're in turmoil with an interim head coach, Frank Reich. And we'll see them in Provo next week.
When your dad and your brother get into a physical altercation in the parking lot. How many of those are we going to see from BYU players this year, huh?
Yeah, over under half is kind of the line right now. I'm taking the under on that one, but yeah, that was weird, right? I'm assuming they were, heavily liquored up, ready to go.
There's a photo from like an hour before the incident happened, where the brother is you can tell even in a still photo he's got the 1,000-yard stare. He's looking off into the ether past the camera, and he's got a Guinness in each hand. So I think that you're right, and I think that probably did influence whatever that conflict was. But they've
go Wildcats.
They've issued their joint statement. It's all water under the bridge.
I love me a joint statement. It's the best.
Well, Jeremy, always love talking to you. I guess enjoy this first foray on the weekend, and I'll ask you this before we let you go. Utah, UCLA, how do you think it plays out?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Obviously, Maliava, how's he going to do in UCLA, and like no media availability, stuff. It's one thing not to have a depth chart, Sean. It's another not to let features be written for the writers or the reporters get to talk to a lot of the guys. So it's the hidden game. I'm really interested in that. Just kind of see the groundwork. Obviously, a lot of expectations for Utah. What's that offense going to look like under Jason Beck and the boys? So, yeah, I'll be watching that one for sure. But why'd you bury the lead? A Big 12 alum is engaged to Taylor Swift. I thought that would be like top all of the headlines here because, hey, Cincinnati and Travis Kelce. I mean, that's the news of the day, is it not?
When I think Travis Kelce, the first team that comes to mind is the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Cincinnati.
You're absolutely right. Like
most people are like, he went to Cincinnati?
When I bring up in my mind, when I think Travis Kelce, it's Cincinnati Bearcats first, and then it's that reality show that he did where he dated 50 different women from 50 different states.
Yeah.
And then it's his time with the Chiefs, and then it's the fact that he's now engaged to the biggest celebrity on planet Earth. So it's probably.
I know you guys are slow to embrace the Big 12 here still, but this is a Big 12 story, okay? And unfortunately, Travis Kelce has given hope to the weirdos who think that they could just show up and ask someone on a date and maybe you'd actually get married. That's what he did, right? Except if you're a three-time Super Bowl champ and perhaps the best tight end of all time, that helps your chances.
It really is. It's interesting to me that it's one of the rare cases where you're talking about, like you said, one of the all-time greats potentially in the NFL at his position. And, when they make the next top 100 players in NFL history list, he'll almost certainly be on it. And yet the power dynamic favors his soon-to-be spouse in the relationship. Like, no matter how accomplished he is as a football player, as a podcast host, which is also pretty good at and has a lot of popularity there, he's still the B-side of that album.
Yeah, Russell Wilson can empathize. Yeah, there are a few out there.
Yeah, there's a couple. All right, thanks for the time. Appreciate you as always.
Sean, always good to talk to you.
That's Jerem Jordan for a little red and blue. And it is a Big 12 story, I guess, that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are officially engaged. It's public. They've announced it. The caption on the post, your English teacher and your math teacher are getting engaged. Stop. Or history teacher. No, that's a bad one, Taylor. Your publicist or whoever came up with that one was not good. It wasn't as clever as you thought.
Yeah, I doubt she wrote it herself. To be fair, it's probably one of her people. Of course, she does write all of her songs, so maybe she writes all of her posts. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't quite get it. Maybe I'm out of the loop. I don't know if there's already been some inside joke about that. I just took it as they know it's like going to break the internet, so they're making a joke about, oh, it's just two normal people getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite that.
It's and you know that there's all the Cincinnati newspapers they've written that. Former Cincinnati Bearcat. You know that's happened today. You know it's rule one, especially in the writing business, the writing side of media. Rule number one, try to localize it.
Well,
so you know like I remember who was the Alabama Williams, Jameson Williams, is his name, the Alabama receiver who transferred from Ohio State, when he had his gambling suspension and his rookie year or second year with the Lions, people were freaking out because an Ohio news station said former Buckeye.
Former Buckeye.
And it's like,
It's
well,
fair.
it's an Ohio news station. Like, if they were in Alabama, of course they'd say former
Tide.
Tide. So anyway, you know that the newspapers in Cincinnati, the writers in Cincinnati, former Bearcat getting engaged to Taylor Swift.
Good
Big 12 story.
Good for these young kids. Here's the thing. The official stance of Sean O'Connell on the Sean O'Connell Show is that we love. We're happy for what appears to be at least a pseudo-authentic celebrity relationship, and good luck to them.
I think
Taylor Swift shares a birthday with my youngest daughter. So,
okay. So you're a huge Swiftie then.
And my sister-in-law, who is soon to be married also, is the biggest Swiftie I've ever met. And it's not lost on me that she's having a wedding shower tonight, a bridal shower tonight, the same day that Taylor Swift announces her engagement.
Did she know something?
She must have known something.
Did she know something? Oh, my gosh.
Guess what
her favorite English teacher was getting married?
Guess what the theme of the bridal shower is? Eras.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's the Taylor Swift thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's great. Good for you, Travis Kelce. I always love when guys outkick their coverage. And let's be honest, it was going to be really difficult for Travis Kelce to outkick his coverage. You know, he's this tall, successful, handsome millionaire. And what did he do? He found a tall, successful, beautiful billionaire, and that's who he's marrying.
Yeah, and on top of having good looks, Travis Kelce also great personality, makes people laugh, and we all know what comedy can do for you.
I'm telling you.
On the romantic side of things, like
we men are lucky. Like, he's a good-looking dude, but as a man, you can look like a pug as long as you can make somebody
if you're
laugh.
Funny,
you got a chance.
Yeah, so he's got both things going for him. So of course he's marrying the most famous person in the world.
Here, Travis, Taylor, put this phone number in your phones, okay? 801-850-9100. You're probably going to have multiple properties. I imagine, actually, that the Kelce Swifts or the Swift Kelces, however they decide to hyphenate that name, they're probably going to have an estate of some sort here in Utah, up in Park City maybe a condo downtown to take in the beauty of our beautiful downtown area. Advanced Window Products will not only give them a great bid, but install the windows, manufacture the windows right here in town, and then warranty those windows. So if you're Taylor Swift, you're Travis Kelce, or if you're just a civilian living here in Salt Lake, you never have to worry. If there is an issue, which are incredibly rare because of the attention to detail that this company and everyone in the company pays to the whole process, if there is an issue, it gets taken care of quickly, painlessly, and free of charge because of the lifetime warranty on the windows. Advanced Window Products is owned and run by people we know and people we trust. You can actually find them and talk to them. The owners of the company, they'll be here in our studios. They're down there at their headquarters. You don't have to send some email off into the ether and hope that somebody who might care will see it because they're right here in Salt Lake City. Advanced Windows, 801-850-9100, $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. And if you're buying that Park City estate, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce couple, they'll take care of you on 100 windows as well. Give them a phone call. Tell them OC sent you. Hour 3 begins next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92 on FM. Call Valley Plumbing for any of your plumbing needs. The truck with the duck will show up, take care of you. The news dump. It's new right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. I like it. Some updates on the roster cut front, the NFL roster cut front. Former Ute Braden Daniels has been cut by the Miami Dolphins. Jaquindon Jackson, former Ute, obviously he was with Arkansas most recently. Jaquindon Jackson got cut by the Jacksonville Jaguars. We talked earlier in the show.
No Jaquindon Jacksonville this year.
I see what you did there.
I was looking forward to Jaquindon Jacksonville. Oh, no.
Tyler Huntley was cut by the Browns, as was Jackson Barton.
Mekhi Bernard and Cole Fotheringham cut by the Pats as well. I think that's the list, right? Did you mention Travis Broughton?
Travis Broughton got cut.
That was yesterday.
That was last night. And again, he's another guy that he had to stop in college football after his time with the Utes.
Last year at TCU, right?
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct.
But a really good run at Utah too. One of their
played 5 years at the University of Utah,
and had a lot of that reason why. A lot of the reason why it was that long was because of injuries, but I think he was also got the extra year of COVID too.
Correct.
But after he got healthy, wasn't he? He was at least all conference honorable mention. He was at corner, right?
I thought he was an awesome player, and I actually when I saw that he'd been cut, I looked to see like, oh well, how was he at TCU compared to how he was at Utah? And he had a solid year at TCU.
Yeah,
but he was a better player at Utah than he was at TCU. I think he had 5 passes defended in his lone year at TCU, but he was more productive across the board in his time at the University of Utah, which I don't consider it a surprise because of how well the defensive backs are coached.
Right.
And he was a good player. So
quietly a big loss for Utah's secondary last year to not have him. But they ended up, obviously, as we've talked about ad nauseum, they ended up doing just fine on defense last year. Not the problem. So, yeah, too bad to see. It's weird to be like, let's go ahead and talk about all these Utes that got cut, and let's really highlight this. But like, that's the local interest, and like, it makes you feel sad for these guys. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, I remember Britton Covey a couple years ago getting cut by the Eagles and then still making the roster later. So this is not the end. Other teams might pick these guys up before the first game, and you know, maybe they get picked up by these same teams on the practice squad or something like that. So this is not the end for these guys. We also talked about so many more options with UFL in the springtime, obviously CFL. For these guys to continue to play football, which is a good thing. So, but hopefully we see them in the NFL.
Yeah, we don't have official final numbers yet. It's hard, you know. I'm refreshing constantly all the draft trackers, and it's going to take some time. Taysom Hill, interestingly, is going to start the season on the PUP list.
Oh,
physically unable to perform. So that's it's an unfortunate situation for.
He's been fun to watch in the NFL, man.
I know that people, you know, get mad when we give too much love to the Cougs. Taysom Hill is one of those guys that he's just a football player, and it's such a rare thing now that you can be positionless at the highest level. Most of these teams don't want to preserve a roster spot for someone who's going to be like A-, B+, B level 3-position guy. They'd rather have an A or A- version of one specific position in a 2 or 3 deep kind of scenario. But Taysom Hill is a guy that I firmly believe this. And there's, you know, we've been fortunate as Utah fans and Utah observers to see this kind of play itself out on the Utah football roster, even in recent years with Sione Vaki, with Eric Weddle, obviously, when you go back with Ben Moa, with guys that you can put them in different places and they're just going to be good football players. There's also guys who contributed on both sides of the ball. It's going to happen again this year. It sounds like with Smith Snowden and Lander Barton, that it's a rarity. And to do it in the NFL, and by the way, to do it in the NFL for a team that decides, like, we love this guy, we love that he's a football player, I'm the professional version of Bronco Mendenhall, and I'm just going to fall in love with this guy, and we're going to pay him a grip of money. Like, Taysom Hill has made a lot of money to be a tight end,
super
fullback,
utility guy, to use a baseball
teams.
term.
Yeah, he's a utility player. He's played the quarterback position sometimes, but he's just a dude. They're just like, man, we need a first down. And then 18 seconds later, they're like, now we need a special teams tackle. Taysom, go get it. That's a really cool thing.
Can you return a kick too for us? Hasn't he done that a couple of times too? Like he's fun to watch. I know that there's, like you said, a lot of frustration, Utes fans, that he gets so much shine by the national media in particular for what he does in the NFL, but it's so unique you can't ignore it.
It's so funny because I did shows for years with Jeff Schwartz, who was a guest earlier on the show today. He can't stand the Taysom Hill stuff. He can't, like, he's just like, Taysom Hill, he's not good at any, he's not great at any of these things. I'm like, I know, but he's good at all of them.
And he's shown that he's proven that he's valuable because he's a jack of all trades. Yeah. But yes, like, it'd be better if he was great at one of them, for sure. Like, that's the better outcome. But like, the Saints have utilized him to a lot of success for them, as a guy who can do a lot of things good. None of them really that great. Are you ready for I found my favorite name of the guys who were cut?
Okay, give me the name of the guy, your favorite name.
This is a significant update here. Lamar Jackson has been cut. Okay, cornerback Lamar Jackson has been cut by the Atlanta Falcons.
Nope. You can't. I'm sorry, Atlanta Falcons, Lamar Jackson. You have to go by your middle name while you're in the NFL.
Also, that he's cornerback, which notoriously gets confused with quarterback all the time when on broadcasts. You're like, wait, did he?
Here's what has to happen.
That guy's a quarterback. Oh, cornerback.
Lamar has to go by his middle name. Okay, Charles, whatever it is. You got to go by that. And when people ask you what position you play, you have to say DB. You can't say cornerback.
Back. So good. I saw that, and I did a double take. I'm like, wait, there's another Lamar Jackson in the NFL?
Nope, you can't. I'm sorry. That's part of our Valley Plumbing news dump today. You can't. It's a public service announcement. You can't have the same name as a guy who a lot of people think is the best player in the league now because Patrick Mahomes' production has fallen off the last 2 years.
And then get cut and have people go, Lamar Jackson got cut?
Yeah.
What are the Ravens doing? Oh, Falcons.
How many fans right now are calling?
Cornerback Lamar
how many emails, misspelled emails, are the Ravens personnel department fielding right now? Just like, how dare you cut Lamar Jackson?
How'd you trade him to the Falcons?
I don't know that there's a lot of people in Baltimore that have that accent, but still. Here's something with a local interest.
Okay.
Jalen Johnson.
Oh, not cut.
Not cut, but he hasn't practiced yet. Jalen Johnson had he got a leg injury in the offseason. Hopefully it wasn't from, like, riding a golf cart or something stupid.
Yeah.
But they were going to have to put him on IR or temporary. He was going to have to be, if you don't activate him today on the 53-man roster, even though he hasn't practiced, if you put him on the PUP list or whatever, he's going to miss at least 4 games.
Right.
They don't want him to miss 4 games. So even though he has not practiced yet, Jalen Johnson is going to be an active roster guy for the Chicago Bears, which obviously his talent warrants that. He's one of these guys who's good enough that even if he can't practice for the next however long, you don't want to do anything that the rules of the NFL say, well, now that you are able to play, you got to wait a couple more weeks because he's one of the best players at his position in the league. So when he is available, you want him instantly as he is available. The reason it sucks is because if you're a guy who's been spending the last 6 weeks working your behind off, trying to make a roster, you're looking at that and you're saying, that's a dude who hasn't practiced, and at least this week, next week, maybe into week 4, he's not going to be able to contribute for this team, and he's taken my roster spot.
Yeah, it sucks.
That does suck, but we're talking about a guy who's a Pro Bowl All-Pro player versus a guy who's on the bubble trying to make a roster.
NFL 100 guy too. Like
that is why it becomes it's the most cutthroat business in the world, because it's like, hey, it's what have you done for me lately, but it's also we know he's better than you.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to see him practice
and
alongside
he's not out
you
for the season
to know that he's way better than you, kid. I'm sorry. That's tough. It's a tough place to be in. But obviously, all of us want to see Jalen Johnson back on the field as soon as possible.
Did you want a quick rundown of cornerback Lamar Jackson's career, real quick? I had to look it up.
I didn't need it, but since you got
I had to look it up. He started his career with the Jets. Actually played 13 games his rookie year.
Okay.
Started 6, so
good for him.
Good start for him. Then that was in 2020. So in his 5th year, it's the games played went down from there. He only played 2 games with the Falcons. I think it looks like 5 or 6 different teams in that time. Starting with the Jets. So raise your hand if you knew there was another Lamar Jackson in the NFL. No one's raising their hand. And he's been in the league for 5 years, OC. So that was that name stood out to me. As I was scrolling looking for former Utes.
I bet his grandma sends him like little congratulatory messages, just like, honey, I saw that they said you were a top 5 player in the league. Congratulations. And he just doesn't
proud of you.
Doesn't correct her. He's just like, thanks, Grandma.
MVP is a big deal.
I didn't know you were playing for Baltimore now. I'm so proud of you, honey. He's probably like, yeah, thanks, Grandma. You don't need to correct her.
No.
Just take the shine.
Yeah, by the way, none of those teams Baltimore. It was not Lamar Jackson practicing against Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. I hope that happens at some point.
A couple more interesting contract moves, far more significant, by the way. We've been kind of updating you. I still don't understand why the Cincinnati Bengals did not want to give Trey Hendrickson a real extension. The numbers tell you, his production tells you that he deserves to be one of the highest paid at his position in the league, which is, I mean, that's big money these days. He would be, $30 million plus per year. Now, I understand that you pay Joe Burrow and you pay elite wide receivers, and now all of a sudden you're running out of money. You can't have 5 guys on the roster making $30+ million a year, or the rest your salary cap is just bleeped for the rest of the entire team. But this is a guy who justifiably was doing the hold-in thing, saying, look, my production says, the game film says that I am elite as a pass rusher in the National Football League, and right now my contract says that I am like, a decent starter. And he wanted more money. He was asking for a 3-year extension that put him in the upper echelon.
Yeah, not the highest paid pass rusher, but one of the highest. Yeah,
he wanted to be, and this is the thing, agents, I think, have a powerful influence over this, where they're just like, look, man, you can't sign a deal that undervalues you. Look what the last guy got. Look what Bosa got. Look what Micah Parsons is asking for. Look at all these numbers. That's what you should be looking for. And instead of a long-term extension, it's kind of odd. You don't see it all the time. Trey Hendrickson got a 1-year raise. They're not extending his contract at all, but he's making an extra $14 million this year.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we'll give you the money you want, but we don't want to commit to you long term. We're still okay with you becoming a free agent at the end of this season, which I think that's bananas too. Like, good for him. He got at least probably the most important thing out of it. He and his agent did, that he's making the money that puts him in upper echelon of pass rushers for this season, the last year of his contract. But like, why wouldn't Cincinnati, who's, you mentioned the salary cap's bleeped if you're spending too much money on a few players, like your defense is bleeped. Even with Trey Hendrickson last season, like it's even worse if you don't lock this guy down long term. I don't know why they wouldn't want to lock him down long term.
I guess maybe
because it's financial. I don't know.
I suppose the thought process could be that, like, hey, look, he is not the guy that gets us from being like a B to an A. He's the guy who gets us from being an F to a D. And if we have to pay that much money for that, and there's nothing left that can get us to like a C+ or a B-, and then we can start trying to find the stars and then rewarding those stars. But he's 30 years old, and he led the NFL in sacks last year.
And in the last 2 years, like combined, last 2 years combined leads the NFL in sacks, like it's been multiple years here.
And his team is just like, I don't know, man. I actually don't think so. I don't think we want to extend you. I mean, we don't know what they know from a medical standpoint. Maybe there's some level of concern with that. But, I mean, he was 17.5 sacks last year, 17.5 sacks the year before that, which was good enough for second in the league. And the guys that are in the same category in terms of production as him, Nick Bosa, go look up Nick Bosa's salary. Myles Garrett, go look up what Myles Garrett is making. TJ Watt, go look at TJ Watt's contract.
Yeah, he just got a new contract.
How mad would you be if you're Trey Hendrickson and you're just like, guys, what do I have to do to prove to you that I deserve the same type of money as these individuals?
And like long-term contract too. Like that's the other thing he wanted, but I guess he's probably like, since you're not giving me the long-term contract, at least I'm getting the money. I know that someone's going to give me a long-term contract as a free agent. That's probably his mindset.
Somebody, when he hits free agency, because he'll be 30, 31 years old, right? He's going to get one more big bite at the apple as a pass rusher. So this is a contract year now for Trey Hendrickson because the Cincinnati Bengals defensively are willing to let their best player walk. And you would assume that that's what he will do after taking the money, finding that sort of gray area. Nobody's really happy. They didn't want to pay him. He wanted more time. So it's a kissing your sister type of resolution here where you're like, I mean, thank you. I got a lot more money. I doubled my salary for this year, but it's not the vote of confidence, which I think to a lot of these guys matters just as much, if not more, where they want the recognition and the respect, and they want their team to say, hey, we know that you're the best in the league at your position or among the best in the league at your position, and that's why we wanted to reward you this way. So one of the high-profile holdouts / hold-ins in the NFL offseason, preseason, has been resolved for now. Terry McLaurin also gets a new deal. Now this one...
Yeah, it's a big deal for Washington.
Washington has the bargain basement price on a rookie quarterback who can hang with the big boys. All right? So now is when they're in this window while Daniels is on a rookie contract where the Commanders can spend and probably overspend on the surrounding talent, the players that will help them win a Super Bowl while they're underpaying their quarterback, right? So Terry McLaurin came into a situation which is completely advantageous for him from a financial standpoint because his quarterback needs an elite wide receiver, needs a reliable target, needs somebody that he's got chemistry and trust with. And you want a new contract, you know that quarterback, that QB right now is not gobbling up all the money. These agents talk to each other. They all know what the situation is. They know what the cap situation is. Terry McLaurin ends up with a 3-year contract extension worth up to $96 million. $30 million signing bonus on the deal. Wow. Now, I am against paying wide receivers this kind of money. I always have been. I am more apt to want to spend this kind of money on, I don't know, pass rushers like we were just talking about.
Offensive linemen.
Because my belief is when you and I think the numbers for the most part bear it out. Positions like running back and wide receiver in the NFL are very, very plug and play. That's not to say anything in the pejorative or anything negative about Terry McLaurin, but he is 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. This is not some freak of nature. There's not another one of him out there. There are other ones of him out there. You could go to his same college and be like, well, look, they got 4 of those guys. They're going to be in the league. They'll come play for us in the next 2 years. So I don't know if this is where I would spend the money. If you have it, though, you got to spend it. They didn't want to let him walk. They didn't want the holdout to continue. They don't want any negative juju heading into this season because of the situation they are in. It is the opening of the Super Bowl window for the Washington Commanders right now, and Terry McLaurin just cashed in because of that.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. Wide receivers, more of them grow on trees than almost any other position in the NFL to kind of adjust the figure of speech there. Even the great ones. But when it comes to Washington's in a very unique situation, and I think Terry McLaurin and his representatives played this really well in that Washington is simultaneously thrilled that Jaden McDaniels was awesome last year as a rookie and got them to the NFC Championship game. But also, if you gave them truth serum, they're probably terrified of the sophomore slump and terrified of the RG3 situation. Well, of course, that was a knee injury that derailed his career. But, like, that franchise has already seen a guy who people said, well, that's the future of the NFL. And that turned out badly for them at the quarterback position. And in a different way, they got to be terrified of that possibility, however minute, happening with Jaden McDaniels. And so Terry McLaurin's agents and he himself were like, they've got the money. They know that they can't afford to have their shiny new toy lose his top target in going into his second season. They know that the chances of him having a worse season slightly or otherwise are huge for second-year quarterbacks, however good they were in their rookie year. And so they need to pay me what I want. And I am glad for that part of it, that they did finally relent and be like, yeah, here you go, Terry, because it would be a shame for their Super Bowl window to close because they completely underestimated how important the top target for a second-year quarterback would be. And so I think it's a good thing for Washington they did this. The bill's going to come at some point in the next couple of years, but you worry about that later.
For your knowledge, as a fan, Terry McLaurin was second in the league in touchdown receptions last year. He was 15th in yards. He was 19th in overall catches among all wide receivers. So very productive in getting in the end zone, which, of course, is the ultimate goal. There were, almost 20 receivers last year who had 1,000 yards. Excuse me, there were 24 receivers last year. There were 24 1,000-yard receivers in the NFL last year. Terry McLaurin was one of them with 1,096. He averaged 13.4 yards per catch, and he did have those 13 touchdowns, which was second only to Jamar Chase of the Bengals, who had 17. He's a hell of a player. I think those numbers show you, though, that you can find a lot of guys who can give you 1,000 yards.
Yeah, and give you a lot of touchdowns,
maybe
too.
Not a lot of guys. I mean, there was only
one other guy who had more touchdowns, but you probably had a number of guys who were in the same ballpark of touchdowns as him.
Well, there's only 8 guys who had double-digit receiving touchdowns last year. That actually surprises me.
That is surprising.
Yeah, there were 3 tied with 10. That was this is one that'll stump everyone at your Labor Day weekend football trivia.
Wide receiver Lamar Jackson.
Wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. from Jacksonville. Justin Jefferson had 10. T. Higgins had 10. Mark Andrews, the Baltimore tight end, had 11. He's the only non-receiver in the top 8. Mike Evans from Tampa Bay had 11. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 12. Terry McLaurin had 13. Jamar Chase had 17.
Yeah, that would be less than I would have guessed.
Yeah, I would have thought that there would be at least a dozen guys that had double-digit receiving touchdowns.
Double-digit receivers with double-digit receiving touchdowns. So Jacksonville now has 2 of those guys, though. Didn't they sign T. Higgins?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So Brian Thomas Jr. and T. Higgins with that Trevor Lawrence has to work with this year.
He'll find a way to screw it up. He'll find a way to screw it up.
Hey, Clemson teammate T. Higgins, all right? I don't know. Chemistry.
Maybe. A reminder, Live Night Events presents our 2025 Granary Live Concert Series. Nightingale College, Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer, bring you exclusive outdoor concerts in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City's Granary District. Details are available at ESPN700sports.com. There's a podcast. This is a new thing. NFL players, athletes have their viral moments on podcasts. I don't know if you paid attention to the St. Brown brothers and the podcast content that they're putting out, but it is, we'll say it's controversial at the very least. We'll get to that next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Equanimous St. Brown has been cut by the San Francisco 49ers. His brother Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the league for the Detroit Lions. They have a podcast together.
Big loss for your Niners.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Lost to St. Brown, brother.
It's a great name. By the way, do you know what their dad's last name is?
Just Brown.
Brown.
Yeah.
Their dad's name is John Brown. And
was he? I can't remember. He was a bodybuilder. I was going to say, was he a former football player? No, he was a bodybuilder. Yeah.
And
I remember from the receiver season on Netflix.
That's right. Yeah. He's a big-time bodybuilder. Very, very serious about athletic development in his sons. And he gave them really cool names. It's Equanimous and Amon-Ra. What's the other one? It's like Pharaoh or something?
Yeah, I can't remember the third, but it's something like that. Yeah, in the receiver series on Netflix that they did after the first quarterback one, that Amon-Ra talked about
Osiris. That's
Osiris. That's right. I knew it was Egyptian, but yeah, his Amon-Ra talked about how important it was to his dad that they like powerful names. Basically beget powerful people.
It's a cool name.
Yeah. So that's why they have such cool, unique names is dad really believes in it, that helps build your character if you have a powerful name.
Equanimous, by the way, was recruited by Utah when he was a 4-star wide receiver at Servite High School.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, they have a podcast. Their dad stirred some feathers because he was making some kind of like, I think tongue-in-cheek comments about, they're a mixed family. Dad is African American, dad's black, mom's white,
from Germany,
and the dad made some comments about like, well, you guys can't, you can't cut it again, and he's telling his sons that they can't be mixed race couples themselves because it'll dilute the bloodline too much.
Okay.
And then they had him follow up. They had him come back on and said, all right, Dad, explain what you meant. And I will let whoever wants to go find the audio. He just made it 1,000 times worse.
Oh, man.
It's and look, he's being humorous about it, but
if you again, going back to that Netflix series, and if you're a listener to this podcast, you know that he's
a personality.
At the same time, but at the very same time, he comes off as serious as cancer, right? Like just super serious guy. And then in other times when he's making a joke, because in most other ways he's like this super serious guy, you think you can take it really wrongly. Like in the Netflix series, his Amon-Ra's girlfriend said, "Yeah, me and John did not jive for a long time because he would say things that sounded very sexist." And she's like, "Oh, you're not joking." But like he wasn't being totally serious. So he's an interesting guy, well, to say the least. I'm not surprised he get himself in a little hot water just because that he just seems to be that kind of guy.
The funny thing, and I guess cool or not cool, whatever you stand on about the podcast space, is like it kind of like you don't have an employer to answer to, so no one's gonna fire you. No one's gonna be like, "Hey, take that down."
You're gonna have the social media mob tell you to take it down.
I guess, but
that's
like,
it.
And if you're two brothers in the NFL, you're just like, no, this isn't my income stream. I don't care. So I don't know.
Fun for us. We'll keep having fun. Yeah,
it cracked me up when I saw some of that. News breaking in the NFL cut world: Nephi Sewell has been released from the New Orleans Saints. They've really trimmed down the roster, and a lot of former Pac-12 connections have hit the chopping block. Jay Kaner, former Washington quarterback; Shane Lemieux, former Oregon offensive lineman; Dante Pettis, who was the bane of Utah's existence, at least in one of those Pac-12 runner-up years. Nephi Sewell, like I said. Terrell Burgess also released from the Saints. So hopefully those guys end up.
Wait, all those guys Saints?
Yeah, all those guys were Saints. That's the thing. That I only gave you like a third of the list. That teams are going from 90 to 53
today. Yeah.
I'm not a math whiz, James, but that means that 37 players are getting a phone call or a meeting that they don't want to have in every NFL locker room today.
What a terrible day, both for these players, but also for the coaches and GMs that have to make all these calls.
Yeah, making those calls cannot be fun at all.
Man, or have these face-to-face meetings in offices, which happens a lot with this. Should we call Andy Larson to get some more math talk with percentages of the roster?
I don't need it. Not today.
Not today. We'll wait till there's Jazz
Other
news.
breaking news, and this one is maybe more interesting for fans here in the state of Utah of our kind of like grand presence as a sports market, right? We're all hoping that Major League Baseball comes sooner than later. By the way, as recently as last week, there was a lot more conversation about how, hey, expansion. I mean, Gary Bettman was talking about it. Expansion seems like the right move.
Rob Manfred.
What did I say, Gary Bettman?
Yeah. I was like, wait, is it hockey now?
Yeah. The NHL commissioner was talking about baseball expansion.
Rob Manfred was like, I'd rather he talk about it.
Sorry, Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred was saying, like expansion is a very strong possibility, more regional alignments on baseball divisions. It really stirred up the baseball world a little bit.
It did. People were not happy to hear it, which I was a little confused by.
Here's the thing with baseball. Baseball's season is so aggressively long. Guess what you could do? You could reorganize regionally to take away some of the travel burden that these teams have to shoulder every year and still be like, instead of having, 75 trips, we're just going to have you do like 12 trips to the East Coast.
Yeah.
Like you could figure it out with the 162 games in baseball. Anyway, the sports landscape of Salt Lake City continues to thrive, and TKO, which is the owner of the UFC and WWE, has made an announcement that we've got a major WWE event coming to the Delta Center, and in 2026, another UFC numbered event will be coming. Now, UFC numbered events in 2025, those are pay-per-view events. In 2026, that's going to be part of that new $7.77-year deal, $7.7 billion 7-year deal. So that's going to be a numbered event probably on CBS Sports or on CBS.
At least Paramount Plus, one of the two.
They do. The numbered events are the events where they have the title fights.
Yeah.
So Salt Lake City, this will be the fifth time that the UFC has come back, the fourth time that they've come back with a numbered event. And Dana White has professed his love for doing business here. He likes the political alignment of our state and the way that our state makes it easy from tax incentive basis and things like that for businesses to conduct their businesses. It's not super common that the UFC makes a regular stop. Usually they rotate in and they rotate out. So I was talking with people in the athletic commission after it was three events in 3 years, the initial deal, right? And they were all great events. I mean, I'm a PFL guy now, but can't throw any shade, can't sleep on it. The Leon Edwards head kick knockout, the Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier event. I mean, we had really great events for pay-per-views. And a lot of the folks, even in the athletic commission, were just like, yeah, so they probably won't come back for 6 or 10 years because they like to kind of touch on all the other major or even secondary markets to make sure they spread it around, spread the love around. And they're already coming back to Salt Lake City. 2026, you'll have a UFC numbered event, world title fights on Utah soil. That's pretty cool.
It's awesome, and also you bring up the stuff being on linear television on CBS. A lot of these numbered events. I mean, the KUTV folks basically across the street from us got to be ecstatic at the possibility of our city's hosting, and because they're a CBS affiliate, it'll be on our channel for those that can't make it to the arena. Like I mean, it's really like it adds to another kind of economic benefit for cities like Salt Lake is if these events end up being on CBS, like some of them will be, it's a big deal for the local affiliates too. So that's a really cool angle.
UFC 278, 291, and 307.
Those were the three that have been here the past 3 years. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. 2022, 2023, and then October 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be 1 year off. Is the only one year they're taking off, and they're
and October 24 to probably spring 26.
Yeah, not even a year.
It's like
Yeah, not even 2 years.
It's like 15 months probably.
The WWE events are going to be on Halloween and November 1st. So back-to-back nights. So if you're into the fake wrestling thing that has done really well here in Salt Lake City, you'll have two big-time WWE events at the Delta Center.
And that Friday Night SmackDown is in conjunction with the Big 12 co-promotion.
Yeah, I was
right?
wondering about that because I thought that those were at the football stadiums.
No, they're just in the city.
They're just in the city.
SmackDown.
Okay.
SmackDown is like
it's an arena.
It's an arena show.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a stadium
I knew
show.
that, but I thought that I must have misunderstood that announcement with the Big 12 is that I thought they were going to be in the stadiums as a way for the schools to get more revenue, but it's the city, not the stadium.
So I know that some people love Ryan Smith and the Smith Entertainment Group. I know that some people have other thoughts about Ryan Smith and the Smith Entertainment Group, but according to the official announcement from TKO, which is the parent company that owns the WWE and the UFC, $74 million of total economic impact generated for the Salt Lake City region, according to the research firm Applied Analysis.
For the past
three events, and that's because Ryan Smith campaigned and welcomed the UFC in and told Dana White, like, remember, on the heels of COVID, still kind of business world, sports world waking up from COVID, said, come here, we're going to make this easy on you, and that's exactly what they did. So you get another numbered event in, it looks like, first or second quarter 2026.
Also, we got to look forward to his appearance on the Pat McAfee show talking about pro wrestling in Salt Lake City, I'm sure.
Yeah. I gotta it's such a big business. I gotta find it in my heart to like be okay with pro wrestling.
I'm
having a hard time.
Yeah, here's one of the kind of a newer thing that I hadn't considered till recently as to why another reason why I'm just not that into it. It feels like with stuff like First Take and some of the other fake outrage that people do on social media, it feels like so much stuff is pro wrestling, right? Is a metaphor in that no one, too many people don't actually mean what they say or do, and they're just trying to get reactions. And I know it has not necessarily no direct connection to pro wrestling, but the fact that pro wrestling is now bleeding into mainstream sports. ESPN's got a long-term commitment with them and their new direct-to-consumer platform, the new ESPN app, starting next year. It's like okay, I don't want that to bleed into sports any more than it already has.
Was it Super Bowl week or was it March Madness? They all kind of melt together, but it was Pat McAfee. The Pat McAfee show was just all week long of like maybe it was the national championship of a major sporting event. They were talking with all the WWE people all week long.
They were on site at wherever SmackDown was.
It was insane.
It was
anyway.
It's like that existential thing that I'm like, can we have less of the fake stuff? I mean, I know that like it's a really entertaining thing, and I don't want to discount that for people who are really into it for the entertainment value, but like we need more genuineness in society, not less. And so it feels like pro wrestling is one of those things that is taking away from that. But maybe I'm reading too much into it.
All right, last break. We'll give away some Utah State Fair tickets next on the Sean O'Connell Show with topical trivia. 877-353-0700. That's how you answer the question. If you want to go see the concerts, the rodeo, the fair games, the rides, the animals of the Utah State Fair, we've got a family 4-pack of tickets. Stay tuned. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. If you haven't made your weekend plans, I'll make them for you. The Utah game is at night, all right? It's a night game. It's a little Pac-12 throwback after dark, which means all day long you have time to check out Tooele County's historic golf course at Stansbury Park. Water on every hole, almost every hole. They're taking excellent care of the greens these days. And look, it's not the easiest course you're going to play, so the perfect spot for you to talk a little trash to your buddies as they spray one into the rough or dunk one in the water. $50 for a round on weekends, $45 if you can make it out there on a weekday, right off of I-80, super easy to get to. A go-to spot for any golfer who's looking to freshen up the rotation. Stansbury Park Golf Course, great rates, gorgeous greens, minutes away. Totally worth it. StansburyPark.gov/golf course. That's StansburyPark.gov/golf course. Go check it out this weekend. 877-353-0700. We were talking about contracts in the NFL. Cut down day. It's a brutal day for folks trying to make NFL rosters. And as Jeff Schwartz joined us earlier and said, actually tomorrow can be even worse because you might think you made the roster today and then someone your team likes better is available on the waiver wire tomorrow. So, yikes. Tough stuff. But not the only contract news in the NFL. Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals got a big-time raise, but just for the 1 year. It's an odd situation in Cincinnati, especially with their defensive woes. We talked about how productive he has been these last couple of seasons, especially as a pass rusher in the NFL. He had the same number in 2023 as he had in 2024. How many sacks did Trey Hendrickson generate in those 2 seasons? 877-353-0700. Correct answer gets you a family 4-pack of tickets to the Utah State Fair. And with that, we welcome Spence Checketts, who hosts The Drive, next. Hey, Spence.
Wildest stat I heard today listening to the Trey stuff. Cincinnati in the last 6 years, weeks 1 and 2, they're 1-11. In the 12 games, weeks 1 and 2 the last 6 years, they have 1 win.
Crazy.
It's so weird to me. With an offense that's that good and a coaching staff that has that reputation, 1 win.
A team that was in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like it's wild. The defense last year ranked 25th or lower in basically every major statistical category. And then this popped up on the ticker today. Last year, Cincinnati, 3 wins, 4 losses when scoring 33 points or more. They were 3-4 when scoring 33 points or more. So it feels a little, and I draw this parallel a lot, it feels a little bit like the Colts with Andrew Luck, where you're on the clock. If you have Joe Burrow under center, you're on the clock. Mm-hmm. That's a generationally special quarterback, and if you don't take care of him, you'll waste an entire generation because there are very few quarterbacks I think you'd want in pro football before you'd land on Joe Burrow.
I think he's definitively a top 10 guy, and most people probably have him in that top 5 category behind kind of like the Lamar, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, whatever. So, yeah. And to give him some defensive support would make sense, but also it becomes a numbers crunch.
Yep.
I get it because they gave him the weapons he wanted, and you can't pay 5 different guys on your team and average of $30 million a year and hope that you have a roster that can support a Super Bowl run. So
Mike Tannenbaum on First Take earlier, and I very, very rarely watch First Take, but I'm flipping around trying to see, get some news on the NFL stuff. Would you take for 1 year, not for the future career because Jaden's so young, would you take Jaden Daniels or Joe Burrow for 1 year?
Joe Burrow.
I think I would too. Tannenbaum said he thinks Jaden might be the best quarterback in the league this year. I don't know if that's the First Take, like, hey, let's pick something to lie about and scream. I don't know.
Mr. Christmas tree. Yeah. Love you, but you are hot taken right there.
And he said Jordan Love he thinks is the second best quarterback in the NFC. It might just be hot takes. And what's not to love about Jaden Daniels? But for 1 year, I think the answer for now is clearly Joe Burrow.
And they paid Jaden's favorite target.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
I'm sure Spence will talk about that and a lot more on The Drive today.
A lot of football, a lot of college football. We've got your buddy Josh Lewin on the show, UCLA play-by-play guy. Chase Hansen stops by today. Scott Mitchell will join the program. Then we'll do a little RSL with Pablo. Diego Luna called up to the U.S. men's national team. But before you get out of here, if it was up to you, who would the 6 captains pick be for the Ryder Cup? We're going to hear the announcement tomorrow.
You're talking about the Ryder Cup with me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you name one option?
Tony Finau would be my guy. He'd be my guy for sure.
Not going to happen this year to our guy. Unfortunately, he had a rough season. I don't know, man. You've never watched the Ryder Cup, have you?
I've never watched 1 second of the Ryder Cup.
It's a fun event. I'm going to challenge you to, because it's in New York. Last time around,
Is Scotty Scheffler an option?
Scotty Scheffler is one of the automatic qualifiers.
Okay.
Okay, there's 6 automatic qualifiers. Then Keegan Bradley, the captain, will announce tomorrow the 6 picks that he's made.
Today I learned that Keegan Bradley is a real person.
And also the captain of the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
Since the Ryder Cup is domestic this year, I'm going to challenge you to watch like 10 minutes of the tournament. It's fun.
When is it being played?
A couple weeks. Bethpage in New York. I mean, I know you knew that, but for the listeners who didn't.
Okay, great.
Okay, man.
I will take your challenge.
Okay.
Bethpage.
Just like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, good to see you, Sean.
All right, good to see you. Stay tuned for The Drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Let's do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.